begun preparations on a 15 plus 1, 16-part organized series of briefings along the lines of my work on the border policy, on China, on Ukraine, on inflation, on the banking sector, and how we're going to create new money ruggedly, the right way, and how we're going to ascend to the stars within the next, at most, 20 years, if I am privileged to become your next president. My friends, please, let us focus on ensuring that I am, and my team, which includes you, that I am financially empowered at last, as I've long deserved to be, to have the kind of impact that I believe you know I can have for the good of one and all, the good of many. And in this case, it also depends on the good of one. In this case, me. I don't mind telling you that this lovely evening of August 3rd, 2023, as I walk down this near sacred garden and just marvel at the absolute beauty of this place on this night, I cannot help but feel moved. Sound and sight of this magnificent place. That is how it is at this moment. Just absolutely stunning. I can't imagine how more beautiful a night, an evening this could become. Except to share the joy of ways and means afforded through money. The water's so beautiful here. The sea, beautiful river. Part of my preparation for the campaign ahead, I have been planning for some time to record a series of presentations that describe what my agenda and plans would and will be if and when I should have the honor and the pleasure of serving as your president and commander-in-chief in the years ahead. I've given immense thought for over 2 decades to that series of questions, and the most effective answer that I've been able to develop as preparation and diligently so is to prepare a set of thoughts for each of the cabinet departments that report to the president and the commander-in-chief of the United States of America. Should I be honored with the support of the American public in the proper ways, I will be entering office with a set of 15 blueprints, actually 16, for the 15 cabinet departments that report to the president and the commander-in-chief today. A 16th, a Department of Science. I have previewed in other presentations in recent times, and let us set that as the last, and we will proceed with a presentation on what I believe we can accomplish together as a nation, as a body politic, and as the leading democracy on this planet now, and I believe for time to come. But a lovely wind, a little bit of a wind gust storm here in the Garden Park ward. I just so enjoyed these blustery moments. Actually, they're inspiringly beautiful. We will start with the Treasury Department, the State Department, and on through all the way to the Department of Homeland Security, which, as you may or may not know, but you should now, DHS was formed after 9/11 as part of the response to the attacks that destroyed the Twin Towers in New York City on that dark day. Each of these presentations for each cabinet department will actually be the public version of what I will be discussing with the nominees for the cabinet secretary posts. Those are the direct reports to the president that meet regularly in cabinet meetings. In my approach to such discussions, I have a custom that I've developed in my private sector career as the chief executive officer of various companies and groups of companies over that 3-decade plus span. I tend to plot if you will, a spreadsheet whose rows are defined by a short term, such as a quarter or a year, a medium term, such as, let's say, in this case, a 4-year term as president, and a long term, such as a century. And I feel that those 3 kinds of temporal or time-based increments ahead are essential to represent what must be done most urgently or immediately, such as a 3-month horizon, what must be done over the intermediate term, let's say a 4-year presidential term, and what must be done in terms of objectives for the entire century ahead. That will comprise, I think, an adequate synopsis of the near term, the medium term, and the long term ahead. So please enjoy this address titled The Decade, Century, and Millennium Ahead. With all my appreciation, honor, gratitude, and love, as always. Joseph P. Firmage, your servant, your President and Commander-in-Chief. Let's get to work together, my brothers and sisters, my fellow citizens, and my friends. May God bless you, your families, and may God bless the United States of America. What a beautiful land. In my private sector career, I have a custom that works, or at least has worked for me, to lead large numbers of people on common goals and objectives. And that's, of course, what a president and a commander-in-chief must do as well, at much larger scale, of course. I've termed my address, my first address to the nation, the decade and the century ahead, for a reason. The decade obviously represents what I hope to be able to accomplish, serving as your president and commander-in-chief for roughly 2+ terms as I proceed on course to the White House with your support, to the Oval Office to implement these plans that I shall now describe. I will present a vision presented in as robust the visualization technologies that we can imagine these days, to show what a day in the life can be like at the end of this decade on this journey together, and at the end of the century, and at the end of a 1,000-year horizon, a millennium out. Some may criticize or wonder why we should think so far out, or whether we even can. I am not one of those people. I am not a skeptic on human ingenuity. I'm not a skeptic on the diversity of wonders that remain undiscovered. I'll tell you, as a nuclear physicist, I have been continually surprised at how much we don't know today, and also at what we do know that is not yet broadly shared. Some of those topics have cost me some heat in my career that I'm sure by now you're coming to know about. I'm proud of my forward-looking stances on the sciences of advanced physics, of propulsion that can take us to the stars much faster than we ever thought possible, and power our machines in new ways that relieve us of the burden of burning carbon just to survive. Most importantly, I am inspired by the consonance or the compatibility between what many people may call spiritual perspectives, the sense of a universal force, a universal common substance, a pressure, an impulse, an energy that makes everything we see about us, from our own bodies to the life of the trees, leaves, even to mechanical objects such as cars and roads and buildings and such. The universe I have come to see through the excellent training in science that I am privileged to possess and to share. The universe, my friends, is an astonishing universal force that presents itself in the form of what we call particles, like electrons. But when we apply our experience to those physics terms, well, we talk about trees, flowers, cars, rocks, people with names. We talk about the beauty of a sunset and the feeling that it evokes in our senses. These are all integrated wonders, and it is entirely fair to refer to that universal force as God, in my view. It's fair, it's reasonable to pick a name as long as one does it with respect for the method of science, empirical or empiricism, experimentation, testing, examining, questioning our answers so that we can properly answer our questions with truth. It'll be a pleasure to share beginning this evening and for 15 days to come, make it 16, a vision of what an entire department of our federal government can do on my watch, I trust. Let's get started with this series of presentations. Again, if I were President of the United States tomorrow, what you're about to see in these presentations is what I'd do. In fact, with your vote and your help, we will do it, in fact, and make these futures all the more likely to come true in your lifetime. Certainly within your children's, hopefully your children's lifetime as well, and a lot more. Thank you for your time this evening. Let's get started with a vision of a new renaissance, an American renaissance, a renaissance for humanity that starts right here and now. Thank you, my fellow citizens. May God bless you, your family, and may God bless the United States of America. Let's begin.
It starts with ideas. Ideas that inspire the greatest hopes of our time.
Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert
It includes
into advance.
the most difficult of times,
1941,
when we all must come together to defend what we love and cherish,
in infamy.
to defend the values of our great nation.
America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces
Sometimes
of the empire
with great cost, the toughest decisions of all.
An American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima and destroyed its usefulness to the enemy. That bomb has more power than 20,000 tons of TNT. The Japanese began the war from the air.
It's a job description that's often been called the toughest job in the world,
With this bomb, we have now added a new
especially
and revolutionary
with the rise
increase
of
in destruction.
the ideas
Supplement the growing power of our
of war
armed
forever.
We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial
That it does not have to be this way, for we have been in here before.
And will persist. We must never
My
let
father,
the weight of this
Edwin
combination in
Brown
major
Firmage,
activities or
Sr.,
democratic processes.
and my mother were approaching a time in their lives as a young professional couple that my father graduated with his JD from Chicago as a constitutional lawyer, ultimately a very high regard. And my mother, a graduate of Brigham Young University in psychology and geology, and they married. And by this time, my father had applied to the White House to serve as a White House scholar, specializing in nuclear arms negotiations, treaties for arms reduction. For civil rights, what ultimately led to the Civil Rights Act. My father was right in the center of all of that.
And there are even a few who say
He joined as a speechwriter and national scholar called a White House Fellow, and started under Johnson, just after Kennedy had vanished. And my family began to grow as my parents had my elder siblings, Edwin Jr., Miriam,
all free men,
Sarah,
wherever they may
and
live,
Zana.
are citizens of Berlin. And therefore, as a free man,
And my father was the liaison to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and was so intimate with the families of the Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and with Martin Luther King, Dr. King, and my dad got in such regular correspondence and meetings and many marches. And while this was going on, my mother, Gloria, was raising wonderful children, just remarkably gifted mother and wife of a Washington, D.C. type like my father. And the extraordinary times during the 60s and early 70s were just transformative of so much of life. And my father, after successfully helping to conclude the START treaties, the first START treaties for strategic nuclear weapons, reductions of all the stockpiles, and as they should be over time. And my dad and my mom then moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, a little town called Holiday, and I was born on October 26, 1970. And so I was to come after their time in the White House. But the reason my father moved back was to go into teaching constitutional law. Just a magnificent teacher. And I was just opening my eyes during the end of the Vietnam War, but my father had been consulting and advising on the things such as the Pentagon Papers and was briefing on the impeachment proceedings that would later bring down Nixon. But my dad was actually a Republican while he was serving in the White House, as was my mother. And I think it must have been his exposure to certain social components of the Democratic Party that still have a cord that's deeper than deep. And that's, of course, how I feel about it. But my mother largely remained Republican through her life, and my father switched to a progressive Democrat and rallied around ERA.
That I no longer have a strong enough political
And
base in the Congress
the
to
but the
justify
but the
continuing
mem-
that effort. Therefore,
But by the early
I
70s,
shall resign the
began to
presidency
grow
effective
up
at noon tomorrow.
as a person, and my father ran for the U.S. Congress in 76 and lost in 78 to
At that hour,
good friend, Congressman Dan Marion. I was using telescopes at the time and peering at the stars and watching this president, Ronald Reagan. I had written Carter a letter, not Reagan, but Reagan was something else. My eyes were glued to the stars, and I started programming computers when I was in 5th or 6th grade, and all the way. I remember on October, on my birthday in '82, we saw The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek. What a great, spectacular movie. My parents had been involved in killing the MX missile basing system for nuclear weapons designed to either cause or receive the bulk of the first strike of all nuclear power of the Soviet Union at the time. And my father and others started Utahns United against the MX, and then when that was defeated, it expanded to against the nuclear arms race from Salt Lake City, Utah, and organized all the ranchers, the bishops, the Main Street people, and also all the way up to admirals and generals from the Pentagon. Dad's worked there for many years, and my father, being a great grandson of Brigham Young, the founder of Salt Lake, has a great relationship with the prophets of the church, Council of the 12 Apostles. So he was called in to write the help advise the president of the church on the right wording for the killing of the MX missile basing system, declaring it not right for Zion. Here's Salt Lake. But Reagan was an inspiring president, with basically bringing to a halt the Cold War with such valor and leadership of dignity, optimism. And George Bush was the first president into which I've had any interaction, because my first software company, Sirius, Serius, and then later Appware, was first adopted by the Navy through a company called Intermetrics, and so my software applications were being used increasingly by ships across our Navy for testing. It's called range testing, and so I got my first $1 million contract years before. But by that time, I'd served as vice president of the world's largest network software company, Novell. My job was to merge Unix and the NetWare, that is the global area network, the local area network. Sorry for that intrusion. I'm just recording this. But so that was what. Then Novell had an unfortunate management change, and I decided to go out on my own and launched U.S. Web Corporation, U.S. Web Corp. And by Bill Clinton's, I'd say 98, I was the CEO of the world's largest internet consulting company. We were building the internet, intranets and extranets, and the first commerce systems that connect businesses to businesses. And had about 3,000 just expert web designers and web jockeys and coders, and also strategists. And so it was just a magnificent company to grow. Take public in '97, and that, Bill Clinton and Alan Greenspan and Rubin were really just right during the middle of my IPO in '97. You had the Asian currency flu crisis, and it slammed into the pack rim nations when hedge funds were betting on, hedging nations' currencies, and people were going homeless with cell phones, out of jobs, and all across Asia from currency manipulation, which is evil. But I met Bill Clinton at the Christmas party at the White House. I think it was the second time I've been to the White House, but it was such an absolutely lovely experience. And of course, Al Gore was just an amazing client savior for the planet, with his commitment and devotion to the planet. And I did meet him once to talk exactly about how the digital Earth, 3D Earth, would potentially help us manage climate crises more effectively. Burst onto the scene the dynastic son didn't do well, but there but for the grace of God go I. But now, this man is so vividly patriotic. I just didn't support the approach of how this was all treated, but nonetheless, he brought back the nation from a really scary moment. I mean, to have the Twin Towers in New York shatter, the decade of war there started these fine gentlemen. By this time, I was in the middle of a decade back into physics, believe it or not, to develop, which I studied at the University of Utah for my undergraduate work in physics. But I came back to it after a very controversial book I published just under the Clinton years, and it was called "The Truth About my exposure to some aspects of UFO-related information that is of interest to some people, certainly me too." Barack Obama is the most extraordinary man. I haven't had the opportunity to meet him just yet, but in person. But in one or two speeches I've been to in person, this man is such a brilliant leader, just an exemplary uniter, and so learned, and I respect Barack Obama. Look forward to meeting him sometime soon. But and his lovely wife and exemplary family. I'm so glad I was here to witness the first African American president of the nation. You know, how far we've come, all of us together. I admired Obama and his vice president, who became our current commander-in-chief, the head of state, President Joseph R. Biden, Jr., who I greatly admire, and I know we're going to meet soon, but it will be a pleasure, of course. As for Trump, I'll have much more to say, of course, on this campaign to come in 24 and leading up to it. But for now, I just wanted to thank you for your time, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and sisters, my fellow citizens. I am Joseph Paramore Firmage, and I will appreciate your vote support. I thank you. May God bless you, your family, and may God bless the United States of America.
My fellow Americans, my name is Joseph P. Firmage, candidate for President of the United States for 2024. I am deeply honored and humbled by your trust and confidence in me. Today, you have chosen me as the nominee for the highest office in this land, and I accept this responsibility with gratitude and determination. I want to thank all of you who have supported me throughout this campaign, especially my family, friends, staff, volunteers, and donors. You have given me your time, energy, resources, and most importantly, your faith. You have inspired me with your passion, your courage, and your vision. You have shown me what it means to be a citizen of this great nation. I also want to congratulate my fellow candidates who have competed with me in this race. You have challenged me, educated me, and motivated me. you have demonstrated your commitment to public service and to the ideals of democracy. You have enriched our political discourse and our civic culture. But most of all, I want to thank the American people. You have spoken loud and clear. You have made your voices heard, and you have demanded change. And I hear you. You are tired of the status quo that has failed you for too long. You are frustrated by the gridlock that has paralyzed our government. You are worried about the future that awaits you and your children. And you're hungry for new ideas and new solutions. And that is exactly what I offer you today. A new vision for America. A vision that is rooted in science and 21st century technology, that harnesses the power of innovation and creativity, and that unleashes the potential of every citizen. A vision that is guided by an integrative approach to science, spirituality, and culture, that respects the diversity and dignity of every human being, and fosters a sense of unity and purpose among all people. It is a vision that is driven by a passion for service and commitment to excellence, that leads by example, inspires by action, that challenges the status quo and dares to dream big. My friends, this is not just my vision. This is our vision. This is the vision that we share as Americans. This is a vision that we need to make our country stronger, safer, smarter, and fairer. And this is the vision that I will fight for you as your president and commander-in-chief. But I cannot do it alone. I need your help. I need your support. I need your vote. Together, we can make this vision a reality. Together, we can tackle the most pressing issues facing our nation and our world. Let me set out my agenda for the people who will report to a Firmage administration to come. My cabinet. A new Department of Science and STEAM education. Science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. I have added A into the acronym to recognize those who have been left out of this key phrase for our education system for too long. We will deliver STEAM for all students in this great nation during my first term. We are going to support the development of a diverse and skilled STEAM workforce by expanding access to high-quality programs, scholarships, career opportunities, and integrating the education of our youth with the premier science and technology companies across the United States and beyond. Together, in my Department of Homeland Security, we are going to protect our country from all threats, domestic and foreign, by enhancing our capabilities in counterterrorism, cybersecurity, border security, and disaster response. We are going to strengthen our partnerships with state and local governments, the private sector, and international allies to ensure a coordinated and effective approach to Homeland Security. Together in my Department of Veterans Affairs, we are going to honor our veterans by providing them with the best health care and benefits they so well deserve. We're going to improve the quality and accessibility of our services by modernizing our systems, reducing wait times, and expanding telehealth options. And we're going to explore new opportunities for homesteading for our veterans. We'll talk more about that soon. Together, in my Department of Education, as part of the commitment to the Department of Science, we are going to ensure that every student has the opportunity to succeed by providing them with a high-quality and equitable education. We are going to support our teachers and school leaders by increasing their pay, training, and resources. Together, in my Department of Energy, we are going to lead the world in clean energy innovation by advancing research and development in renewable energy sources, including breakthrough energy sources that are derived from insights in nuclear science, a field of my personal skill and experience. We will drive fuel efficiency and carbon capture to reduce carbon emissions and, over time, reverse carbon-caused climate change. Together, in my Department of Transportation, we are going to build a safer and smarter transportation system by improving our safety standards and scheduling standards, and deploying new technologies, breakthrough technologies. We're going to connect our communities by expanding public transit, rail, and bike networks, and supporting rural and underserved areas. But we are going much farther than this. In the Firmage administration, the Department of Transportation is going to catalyze through major investments across American society to federally fund, match, and plan, then design, test, and launch an economic renaissance through breakthrough engines and electricity generators emerging from fields of physics and science in general that I have helped pioneer as an industry-leading scientist and CEO for a quarter century. With new engine designs to enable skyways for automobiles that can lift off the ground in city and travel from city to city and then state to state through flights with new skyways, modeled on the hub and spoke system called the interstate highway system that you drive on. Imagine in parallel the emergence of spaceways. That will be the work of the United States Space Force and a greatly expanded mission set for NASA as we open the frontier of space for the first time for interplanetary travel and then beyond. I have been working in the private sector on a national alliance of the major aerospace giants and the federal government for a quarter century. And as your president, that progress will be put into high gear. The result for every region of our nation, from the Rust Belt for manufacturing and assembly to the East Coast in Florida for expanded launch facilities for testing and a central test bed indeed for landing ports and hubs for the skyways and spaceways ahead. To Southern California, where much of our nation's most advanced R&D is based, we'll also have an unparalleled economic opportunity ahead. In my Department of Housing and Urban Development, we are going to ensure that every American has a decent and affordable place to live by expanding access to housing vouchers, rental assistance, and home ownership programs. We are going to promote sustainable and inclusive development by supporting community planning, fair housing, and environmental justice. Together, in my Department of Health and Human Services, we are going to improve the health and well-being of all Americans by strengthening our public health system, expanding access to quality and affordable health care, and addressing social determinants of health. We are going to respond to emerging health challenges by advancing biomedical research, the development of vaccines and other approaches to cures and treatments, and preparing for pandemics and bioterrorism. Some of these are inevitable, some of them are not. Together, in my Department of Defense, we are introducing the sixth branch of the Pentagon, as I have proposed in some forms, I am announcing my intention to introduce the sixth branch formally in near-Earth orbit as our first command center. The United States Space Force establishes effectively the hexagon. This is a tremendous step forward for our nation and for our world to protect our country and all countries from threats from space. Welcome to the space age, the real space age. It has arrived, my fellow citizens. By maintaining space superiority, deterring aggression, and protecting our assets both on the ground, in the sea, with our great Navy, in the air with our Air Force, everywhere with our Marines, and above with our Space Force, with our Coast Guard always on watch. By maintaining these commitments, our Department of Defense and our military in every branch of the armed forces I so deeply respect and admire, we will maintain the national security of this nation like never before. We can deal better with threats by anticipating them in every domain of military engagement. Together, in my Department of Labor, we are going to empower our workers by ensuring fair wages, safe working conditions, and collective bargaining rights. We are going to create more opportunities for employment by supporting job training, apprenticeships, and entrepreneurship programs. Together, in my Department of Justice, we are going to uphold the rule of law by prosecuting crimes, protecting civil rights, and enforcing federal regulations. And in general, offer alternatives to prison with better opportunities for reentry, rehabilitation, and recovery to reenter society. All of us citizens are human beings, my friend. Our criminal justice system needs to become more humane. Together, in my Department of Commerce, we are going to boost our economic growth by promoting trade, innovation, and competitiveness. We're going to support our businesses, large and small, and consumers by setting industrial standards, providing data and statistics all the way to the points of sale and receipts over time, and by regulating commerce properly, not over-regulating, regulating commerce properly. I'm going to be introducing a new class of corporation in tandem with innovations in the Treasury that any citizen may form on their own, or convert an existing C, S, or LLC class company to become an LLF, from a flower shop to Walmart and Tire, can comply with new adjustments and standards to generally accepted accounting principles that can restore the dividend to American business fundamentals, and classifies and guarantees returns to stakeholders and shareholders in lockstep with the long-standing guarantee of a solid payroll to labor. Within these new corporate entities, thus designed to survive through good times and bad, even thrive during times of reduced revenue or even periodic losses, without forcing businesses to sell out, close up shop, or go bankrupt simply because they experienced a down quarter or period of time. And these new accounting guidelines have been designed by the world's finest experts in economics, especially intern economics, an entire sector that drives our global economy, which I personally helped to pioneer as a principal father of it throughout my 35-year career in Silicon Valley, California. That included helping Wall Street banks in New York thrive. In partnership with them and the Federal Reserve, our nation's vital central bank, and more than half the Fortune 100 worldwide, served by my companies, we will be introducing a plan to repower and renovate and rehire along every single Main Street in America. Together, in my Department of Agriculture, we are going to nourish our nation and our children by ensuring food security, safety, and quality of our food. We are going to support our farmers and rural communities by providing loans, subsidies, and technical assistance where needed. Together, in my Department of State, we are going to advance our national interests abroad by conducting diplomacy, negotiating treaties that work and last, and providing foreign aid that helps and not hurts. We are going to promote peace and stability by resolving conflicts, preventing violence, and supporting human rights. Together, in my Department of the Interior and Native American Affairs, we are going to preserve our natural heritage by managing federal lands and resources for conservation and recreation. We are going to respect and empower our Native American tribes by honoring their sovereignty and culture and addressing their needs and challenges, as well as establishing a new immigration treaty with Native American nations, allowing a funded new immigration city to be federally supported through those nations within each U.S. state. And together, my fellow citizens, in my Department of Treasury, we are going to secure our financial stability by producing and managing our currency and our debt. We are going to shape our fiscal policy by collecting and distributing taxes and overseeing the federal budget, as all administrations have. But for this special address, my fellow citizens, I have saved among the best policies for the last. I'm going to introduce legislation that may sound strange coming from a progressive, but I have a very strong independent and even libertarian streak in me. Learned the hard way by becoming a self-made millionaire by age 22 and taking my pioneering company, U.S. Web Corporation, public at age 27, with thousands of expert engineers and digital artists in 10 plus nations. My team pioneered the internet economy itself that you use every single day on your smartphones with your apps. Sometimes they're smarter than we are, it seems. My Department of the United States Treasury and the best from that global group of experts are going to introduce smart electronic dollars within an evolved monetary policy that bulletproofs the US dollar, integrates with stable, exchangeable, and certifiable cryptocurrencies to provide you, your families, and our businesses, large and small, with U.S. Treasury-backed citizens' wallets that will become immune over time from runaway inflation and excess taxation as well. In fact, in a central address to our republic to come, I pledge to introduce a real and rugged plan that will overhaul our tax code and our tax system and reduce overall personal income and capital gains taxes, I project, by 20% in my first term as your president and by up to 40% by the end of my second term in 2032, should I be privileged enough to serve you. And should the Congress you choose to elect to work with me throughout approve my forthcoming proposed legislation. So let's aim not to eke out merely a win in 2024, but a sweep of the House and the Senate. These bold ideas need to be done. Why do I want to take on this enormous challenge? Why do I want to assume this immense responsibility? Because I love this country. Because I believe in this country. Because I owe this country. This country gave me everything I have today. This country gave me the opportunity to pursue my dreams of science and technology. This country gave me the freedom to express my beliefs and my experiences. This country gave me the platform to create and contribute. This country also taught me everything I know today. This country taught me the values of democracy and liberty. This country taught me the principles of justice and equality. This country taught me the virtues of service and sacrifice, and it challenged me in everything I faced and face today. This country challenged me to overcome adversity and even failure. This country challenged me to embrace diversity and difference. This country challenged me to grow and evolve. These are the emotions and the roots of the emotions that lead me on this journey to this day. The journey ahead will not be easy. It will be long and hard at times. It will require courage and sacrifice. It will face opposition and resistance. But we have faced greater challenges before. We have overcome greater obstacles before. We have achieved greater things before. After all, we are Americans. We are dreamers. We are doers. And we are leaders. We are ready for change. We are ready for action. We are ready for a new era of progress. I believe we are ready for Joseph P. Firmage as the President Commander-in-Chief. Thank you. God bless you, your family, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
The prior fast introduction in the publishing parameters of this excellent platform called LinkedIn. My fellow colleagues, it's been a long time since I've ever attempted a broadcast monologue to so many thousands of people on my LinkedIn basically direct connection list. I had so admired for many, many years the excellence of the management and engineering operations and marketing and every operation there is at this fine company. I know it's part of a larger ecosystem, and everybody at scale is. I did never step aside from a leadership role in the evolution of the internet economy, my friends. No, I did no such thing. I sort of looked at it more like changing my title and moving to a different part of this grand endeavor that I coined it Project Renaissance in the months leading to my abrupt resignation from the helm of US Web CKS in 98 on November 22nd, to be precise, in memory of an honorable President JFK, whose short life would have been so good for this nation had it not been snuffed out, especially so in such an evil manner. But not dwelling on the past is part forward in every sense of our nation. There's a whole story about how I came to the decision to run for president, but let's just make it one point clear. That decision was effectively made at two very first order when I made the decision to leave that great company I co-founded with three other brilliant gentlemen. The impetus to do so was the foresight to see many, not all, but many of the basic problems, structural problems that this audience, this group of people, whether they're connected to me or not, listening to this now or in the future, read my CD and you'll understand better the nature of this message as a postscript.
Joseph B. Firmage, and I am today declaring my candidacy for the presidency of the United States of America in 2024.
Should our fine President Joseph R. Biden Jr. make an epic choice.
A series of events around the nation beginning next month, all to be broadcast to our nation and abroad through the internet.
To step aside and give me his nod, Joseph P. Firmage, as his successor to clinch the convention, obviously, but to have a united one with science. Science, my friends, science has been missing.
With a focus on breakthrough physics, information technology as well, and certainly financial abilities at a global scale. I am a leader who helped pioneer the internet economy and the tools to build apps that you use on your cell phones and computers today. My companies have helped and served over 50% of the Fortune 100, building their first internet.
I am in the process and have been through appropriate channels, as you'd expect such a sensitive topic to be discussed or discussable. It has been Joseph B. Firmage obtaining effectively a nod from the current administration's excellent team. Excellent. There are some challenge areas, but if you're a real strong progressive, as I am, with some notable exceptions, tax policies overall, because they're new solutions to problems, and those new solutions are uniquely a Silicon Valley affair, and I'm not going to say anything more about it, but I will shortly. But as an indicator of the seriousness of this proposal and an expected meeting I trust in coming days, I am for the first time being comfortable with the state of my understanding of counterparties' structural awareness, situational awareness, better and more fitting term, of course, the White House personnel. My opinion is that it's been robustly discussed. I'm hopeful for a very wise decision, because from a policy point of view, we can only improve with adopting some very rugged Republican goals, because I share them, deeply share them. I think we can do an overhaul of government and bring it into the digital era. I mean,
Some parts are really advanced, some are totally decrepit and unneeded in every sense, worse than unneeded. The people involved, as employees of the federal government, can be doing much better things with their well-educated time. Let's not forget, the education level of the federal workforce is uniformly consistent, at least. Therefore, it's subject to new missions, and that's what I want to bring. And without getting too pedantic about this, I just want to leave this inspired message so you understand the questions and the answers in the introduction, this introduction post, or article. I'll probably do both for the benefit of LinkedIn. And please enjoy this. I have begun preparations on a 15 plus 1, 16-part organized series of briefings along the lines of my work on the border policy, on China, on Ukraine, on inflation, on the banking sector, and how we're going to create new money ruggedly, the right way, and how we're going to ascend to the stars within the next, at most, 20 years, if I am privileged to become your next president.